We're going to continue adding and subtracting rationals. Our problems are getting more and more difficult. In this case, we're going to look at a couple that are similar to what we looked at last time, where when we're looking at our denominators, we take the product of the two, and then we're going to eventually move into where we have to factor it before we find the common denominator. So looking at letter A, what we have is an x plus 4 and an x. So our common denominator is x and then x plus 4. We have an x and then an x plus 4. Now remember, once we have our common denominator, what we do is we see what's missing. So in the first one, there's an x missing. In the second one, there's an x plus 4 missing. So for the first one, x times 3 is 3x. For the second one, 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 4 is 20. Now what we're going to do is we're going to subtract the two fractions. 3x minus 5x is negative 2x. And then if we subtract a 20, that gives us negative 20. We see that they have a negative 2 in common, so we factor out a negative 2. And we get an x plus 10. And so our answer is negative 2, and then in parentheses x plus 10 over x, and then in parentheses x plus 4. Now, when we're looking at our excluded values is what gives us 0 in the denominator. So x cannot equal, for the first one, it's a monomial, so it would be 0. For the second one, it would be negative 4. Now for letter B, we're going to do the same thing. We see an x minus 8, we see an x plus 1. So the common denominator would be x minus 8 and x plus 1. So we have x minus 8 and x plus 1. So for the first one, we multiply it by x plus 1. And for the second one, we multiply it by x minus 8. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times 1 is 6. X times x is x squared. X times 8 is negative 8x. Now we're going to add the like terms. This is the only x squared, so we bring down the x squared. 6x plus a negative 8x is negative 2x. And then we have the 6. And our denominator stays the same, x minus 8 and x plus 1. Once again, excluded values, it's what gives us 0 in the denominator. So for the first one, it would be x cannot equal 8. For the second one, x cannot equal negative 1. Now, letter C, this is where it's getting a little bit different. What we have is a trinomial in the denominator. So we want to factor it. Two numbers that multiply together give us 6, add up to 5. And that would be 3 and 2. So this is x plus 3 and x plus 2. Now, for the first one, they both have an x plus 3, so our common denominator has to have an x plus 3. This one has an x plus 2, so we need an x plus 2. So our common denominator is x plus 3 and x plus 2. Now, what we notice is that with our first one, we're going to do the same thing that we did for the other ones. We're going to multiply it by the x plus 2. But for the second one, what we notice is that it already has the same common denominator. So we're just going to bring down the 3. So x times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. So we have x squared plus 2x plus 3 over x plus 3 and x plus 2. Once again, when we're looking for our excluded values, it's whatever gives us 0 in the denominator. So for the first one, negative 3, and for the second one, negative 2. Now for the next one, what we're noticing is that we have a quadratic. I'm going to use the special factoring pattern. It's a difference of squares, meaning it's x minus 1, x plus 1. So our common denominator would be the x minus 1 and the x plus 1. What we notice is that with our first fraction, it already has the common denominator. And then for the second one, what we notice is that we have to multiply it by an x plus 2. Sorry, an x plus 1. So we bring down the 5x, and for the other one, 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 1 is 5. And so when we combine them, 5x minus 5x, they become 0. And this would be negative 5 over x minus 1 and x plus 1. Now, once again, when we're stating our excluded value, once again, we're looking at our denominator, and we see that x cannot equal 1 or negative 1. Take some time and try these next two problems. See if you're able to do it on your own. So letter E, we see a difference of squares again. That's x minus 3 and x plus 3. And so that means that for our first one, we multiply it by an x minus 3. But we notice for our second one, it already has the common denominator, x minus 3, x plus 3. So that means that it stays the same, and what we're going to do is we're just going to bring down the 4. So 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 3 is 6. We add the like terms. So it's 2x minus 2. And we see that they have a 2 in common. So we're going to factor out a 2. And we get an x minus 1. And then we have an x minus 3 and an x plus 3. So our excluded values, it's what gives us 0 in the denominator. X cannot equal 3 and negative 3. Now for letter F, what we see is a trinomial. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply together give us negative 12, add up to negative 1, and that would be negative 4 and 3. So we have an x minus 4 and an x plus 3. So we have an x plus 3 and an x minus 4 as our common denominator. For the first one, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply it by an x minus 4. And 10 times x is 10x. 10 times negative 4 is negative 40. Here the denominator is the same, so we bring down the 2x. 10x plus 2x is 12x minus 40. And we see that they both have a 4 in common, so we factor out a 4. And we're going to look for our excluded values. So x cannot equal negative 3 and 4.